Could you believe it's been 9 years since Bloodborne has been released for the PlayStation? This game was released on March 24th, 2015 as a PlayStation exclusive. Despite all the high praise that this game has received, this is one of those very few games I really had no interest in playing.
You need to leave!
I know. How could I say such blasphemy, right? It's just that I saw the cover art of the game and I thought, man, this looks hella boring. There's no way in hell I'd ever play that. But then, as fate has it, I got introduced by the soul genre by playing Elden Ring. My experience from playing Elden Ring was so good that it made me want to explore more From Software's catalog. And since Kai Cenat just finished his playthrough on Bloodborne,
ending!
I decided it would be a perfect opportunity to start my journey.
And so, the hunt begins again.
The first thing I thought of when I started the game was, damn, this is kind of scary. The initial cutscene was pretty frightening, probably even triggered some PTSD from the few times I've experienced sleep paralysis. Like, you know that painting about sleep paralysis I'm talking about? Yeah, From Software is like, let's do that, but in first person. Just to really emphasize that this is not your typical From Software game. But all jokes aside, this intro was actually genius because it kind of gave me enough information to understand what I was about to get into. As soon as I was able to move in the game, I noticed some similarities and some that were just a little different from Elden Ring. The first major difference I noticed was the lack of a jump button. It is now replaced with the interact button, and you can still kind of jump. You have to do this double tap of the dodge button in order to do this run and jump. It kind of looks similar to how Tom Cruise jumps in between buildings. And the other thing I noticed is that the heal button is now different. On the PlayStation, it's triangle for some reason, and the square button is whatever you have access on your hotbar. It might take me some time to get to, but it's honestly not that different from Elden Ring, so I'll probably get used to it over time. I will say the fact that Bloodborne is only 30 FPS is kinda whack, but at least it's not choppy, so it has that going for it. This 30 FPS that I experienced was at least consistent, so it didn't really bother me. Sure, I'd love to place a From Software game in like 60 FPS to, make sure I get every little advantage I can. But I literally just finished playing Elden Ring on the Steam Deck, so I'm honestly not missing much. And speaking of Elden Ring, I will admit I was spoiled with the mechanics of that game, because after I died from the very first boss, I just had this horrifying realization that I'd have to walk such a long distance just to get back to restarting my attempt at this boss. This was when I realized how important it was to find those shortcuts in the game, because they're going to save you some time if you're constantly dying from every boss attempt. This realization only encouraged me to explore more of the map, because the more I explored the optional areas, the more I get rewarded with either loot or even a better shortcut to get to the boss runs a lot more smoother. I also miss having a map to kind of look at where I'm going, and as well as the ability to just fast travel from anywhere I want. You can still kind of fast travel to certain places, but it just requires 2 steps. For me to fast travel, I had to go to the Hunter's Dream and then kind of look at the gravestones for the certain places that I actually wanted to go. But I will say, the majority of the game is doable without the map, because it's small enough where exploring isn't such a bothersome. There's only one place that I really wanted a map, which was where you got to that Snake Valley. You know what I'm talking about. It's the one with the 3 hunters of Yargul are just chilling. But if I had a map for that region, it would help me so much, because I got lost in that bitch like so many times. But honestly, any other place in the game, pretty easily to manage without the map. And in terms of visuals, this game is a very good looking game. It kind of has this gothic steampunk style that I kind of like, and it kind of reminds me of that one film that starred Hugh Jackman called Van Helsing. That's what this game initially felt like to me, because you're basically a monster hunter exploring like similar looking buildings in like Transylvania, which kind of helped me really get into Bloodborne. And for you guys that have been following the channel for a while, I have a really big obsession with this Van Helsing movie. Like throughout this whole game, I kept picturing myself as a sexy Australian named Van Helsing, slaying all these monsters within the lore of Bloodborne. And for some reason, that kept me going. I didn't get bored at all, I just kept role-playing. It's my favorite Australian. Well, I also have to admit that it's also because the weapons in this game are actually sick. The coolest part about all the weapons in this game is they have 2 modes that you can switch in between, and each different mode has their own unique movesets. And if you decide to transform it while you're attacking, it also does this cool attack pattern that kind of weaves it in as part of your combo in order to continue attacking. There are fewer weapons in this game compared to others, but at least each weapon has their own unique way of transforming. And the best one in my opinion is the hammer and sword one. I don't know what that's called. It's not my personal favorite weapon to use, but I'd be lying to you right now if I didn't think it was one of the coolest transformations in the game. The other cool one was Garam's weapon. I just love how this weapon's transformed because your character, all he has to do to transform his weapon is just to extend his elbows. Then it does this cool like transforming animation where this scythe from your back just unfolds into this giant ass weapon that you can use to slaughter your enemies. Like the transformation mechanic in this game is easily one of the best parts about it. Like even in my live streams, you'd randomly catch me just transform my weapons just for fun, just so I can see the satisfying animation that the developers put in the game. Plus the sound effect also contributes to this satisfying feeling when you transform the weapon. The parrying system in this game is a little different from Elden Ring and probably other games that I've played. To perform it, you gotta shoot your gun at the enemy right when they're about to wind up their attack in order to stun them. And it's kind of hard to find that specific moment when you're supposed to shoot your gun. But once you master it and you find that little sweet spot, it becomes one of the most satisfying things to do in the game. Other than, transforming your weapon. But anyways, since this mechanic could end up being spammable, they kind of limit your chances of doing this by giving you a max capacity of 20 bullets in your inventory. So you can't just be spamming it because there's only a limited supply of them. But let's say you run out of bullets. You're screwed, right? Well, technically no, because they know that bullets is going to be such a valuable resource in the game that they kind of let you sacrifice your own health just to gain some extra bullets. So you'll never be caught lacking. All you gotta do is just sacrifice your health, and there you go, easy bullets. Another cool mechanic they have in Bloodborne is the rally mechanic. What it does is it basically lets you recover some health back from the enemy if you just keep attacking them. This is great for players that are aggressive and love high risk / high reward plays. There are times in the game where my health was just a little nanometer away from death. And thanks to this mechanic, I was able to just sustain my life just from repeatedly hitting the boss multiple times. And it's kind of neat because I don't have to use any of my blood vials to heal myself. I can just keep hitting them. And since I know the rally mechanic is going to have my back, it kind of encouraged me to go a little more risky than I would usually go for an Elden Ring. That's because if I get hit, I can hit them back and get a little bit of health back anyways. So I thought that was pretty cool about the rally mechanic in Bloodborne. You can get a little aggressive and not get punished too badly from it. By far, what makes the game cooler than anything else is the insight mechanic. Insight lets you see things that shouldn't be seen. And the more you have of this insight, the more the world around you transforms. At the start of the game, you end up with a small amount, but as you progress through the game and acquire more insight, more secrets get revealed to you as a player due to the fact that your obsession for the truth keeps you delving deeper into the world of Bloodborne. And what's crazy is having your insight higher doesn't really give you any benefit, it just makes the game a lot harder for you. Like the attacks of many enemies will affect you differently depending on how high your insight level is. Like you could be afflicted with this status effect called madness a lot quicker. And then some of the enemies will even attack you differently based on the amount of insight that you have. All because these monsters know you're getting closer to the truth and they're actively trying to stop you. Which is what makes Bloodborne so crazy. Like I had no idea this game goes this hard. When you first start the game, I thought it was just about slaying beasts and monsters, but after progressing through the game, or gaining more insight, I started to see the bigger picture. Remember all those monsters that we've been fighting throughout the game? A lot of those guys were the result of people seeking out this forbidden knowledge, which led them to go insane and transform into those hideous creatures as you fought every step of the way. You know what else makes you go mad just from the sight of it? The motherfucking monster called Cthulhu. So yeah, this game is about aliens and shit, not at all about monster hunting. Mind-blowing so far, right? It gets crazier with the ending too. Once you beat the game, you have the option to either submit your life and end the nightmare, or you can stay in the dream and keep pursuing this forbidden knowledge that everyone's gatekeeping, especially Garum. If you refuse to wake up from the dream, the first hunter is gonna take you on. He is basically the last line of defense when it comes to people getting too overzealous from seeking more insight. As you as a player, you were given the choice. You could either stop, and be content with whatever insight you've accumulated during your stay, or you can say fuck that and just stay inside the dream and keep digging for more secrets. And then obviously once you beat him, the game just restarts automatically at the beginning. But if you decide to replay the game with that new fresh perspective that you have, in my opinion, the game gets pretty interesting since you're approaching it from a different lens now, which I think adds to the replayability. You can see if some of the dialogues in the game had another meaning other than just the superficial. And it also occurred to me that the real monster in this game was actually the player, which makes sense because whenever you kill a boss, what does it say? It says prey slaughtered, meaning that you are the real threat all along in this dream sequence. And once you've overstayed your welcome, that's where Garum comes in. He tries to make sure you don't overstay your welcome. And if you decide to go for the secret ending, which you get by consuming 3 umbilical cords, something special happens to the ending of Bloodborne. So if you didn't consume these things, this moon presence just basically hugs you and then you become the new manager for Bloodborne. Like, your job is to basically make sure everyone's falling in place and making sure no one does more than they need to. But if you manage to eat 3 umbilical cords before you happen to get hugged by this moon presence, apparently whatever you've accumulated from consuming the 3 umbilical cords prevents you from getting hugged by this monster. Instead, you kind of get rejected. Almost like you're tainted with the real truth. And the moon presence recognizes that you need to be deleted from the dream immediately. And once you manage to do that, the ending turns you into the slug thingy, implying that you've now become this omnipotent being of the dream, thus completing your journey as the hunter, hunting knowledge. And of course, a lot of this is just speculation. Like, they really leave it open-ended. So if you didn't like what my interpretation was about this, you can probably make up your own. Like, there's no wrong answer, unless they decide to make a sequel. But I couldn't believe how much I enjoyed this game. Like, usually when a game makes me read in between the lines, I would just end up bored out of my mind and probably not even bothered to care. But for some reason, Bloodborne is one of those exceptions where I feel compelled to keep immersing myself in more of its lore and invest my time acquiring more of the backstories of the places and the characters that I visited. And if somehow Bloodborne inspires you to do the same, the lore in this game can get pretty crazy. Like, shout out to Framework for doing all the dirty work, so I don't have to do any reading. These guys are the ones that really opened my eyes to that insight mechanic because I didn't know what the hell it did. So check out their video, they probably do a better job explaining than my dumbass. But I will have to praise From Software too for making this game. If you could manage to make me obsessed with a story, to the point where I kind of want to be a historian for the game, then I believe you did something very special with a game that deserves high praise. Overall, if you weren't planning to play Bloodborne on your 2024 bingo card, I highly suggest that you add it. Especially if you have a PlayStation. The gameplay's fun and satisfying, plus the lore is really what'll make you stick around to keep playing this game. So yeah, highly recommend, play this game, buy a PS4 just to play this game, or even just stream it online. I'm pretty sure this is something you can stream online on that PlayStation Cloud service. But yeah, if you liked the video, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe. But until then, I'll see you guys on the next one.